I played a really fun and exciting game of chess. I sacrificed 3 pieces. Well, functionally 2. The third one was just for fun. This is round 3 of the Maine State Championship here in Waterville, Maine. And I played against Henry Shannon. Never trust someone with 2 first names. And in this game, I definitely did not. I challenged him. And yeah, it was just a very fun game. It's game of 90 plus 30. And after the 40th move, we get an additional 30 minutes. So these games could last over 5 hours. In this case, it did not. I played e4. Henry played e6. And I love playing e6. I play very fun and exciting chess against e6. I often gambit the pawn on d4. In this case, I did not, sort of. So, we did typical French stuff where I advance my pawn, I play the advanced variation, he pushes c5, and now we both develop our knights, and then he develops his other knight. The last time I had this move order for black was in 2023, the round 3 of the 2023 Pittsburgh Open. That I was new to playing knight a3, so playing like this. I was new to the advanced variation of the French. I can't believe I've been playing this opening for 3 years. That's insane. I can't believe I've been playing chess that long. Wow. Just realized that. Anyways, I lost that game. That was sad. My opponent trades in the center, plays knight f5, attacking d4, and now I'm going to knight over to c2. So this is the idea. The idea is that black delays their other development with their knight maneuver to f5, but then white does the exact same thing. And now this knight on c2 looks kind of weird and unusual, but in this particular instance, it's actually very powerful here because it counteracts these 2 knights. In a lot of cases, white can go g4 and dislodge the knight from d4. My opponent attacks b6. I do not defend d4 because now if you take, I can take, and if you take, I can take, and then if you take, I can go bishop b5 check, which is a discovered attack on the queen. So very typical pattern in against the French defense. He goes bishop e7, and then now I know that a lot of times in this opening, with the bishop on e7, a lot of times the move g4 here is very powerful. And so I decided to just go for it. And if he plays knight h6, I could consider taking, but I also don't really want to give up my dark square bishop. So if he did play knight h6, I might just play h3. So g4, h3, keeping the knight out. And now this is just a really complicated game. Like, what am I going to do with my king? Am I going to castle short? Am I just going to keep my king in the center for a little bit? I would have to answer those questions. And where is black going to put their king? Are they going to castle short even though I just played g4 and h3? So very interesting position that's very wild already. Black can try to castle queenside, but then maybe we'll be subjected to some b pawn and a pawn pushes. So very cool game already. But after g4, my opponent goes knight h4. And my original plan was to take the knight on h4, and after bishop takes, go g5, trapping the bishop in. This bishop is going nowhere at all. Like, let's say h6, trying to get the bishop out. Well, now queen h5 here, pinning the pawn to the rook and attacking the bishop here. So if you go g6, and of course I will just sack. Actually, I don't need a sack. I can just take your bishop. And if you take the pawn, then I take your rook. So it's just losing for black. But after g5, though, black would have the resource of knight takes e5, attacking my bishop, and there's no good response here. If I take the knight, then I get checkmated. So not fun at all. So that was my original thought after, before he played knight h4. But afterwards, I realized, oh no, I cannot allow him to take the pawn on e5. So here I just castle. Wait, do I do a slightly different move order? Knight h4. How? Okay, now I'm finally on the correct sheet here. So in the game, I took the knight on h4 and then castled, and then castling, which is crazy. So I pushed the pawn in front of my own king and then castled. But here, I don't think black can take advantage of the fact that, I weaken my own king because black has not finished development and they haven't decided what they're going to do with their king yet. So I thought a very, and now, like, if he goes bishop d7, now I'm going to go g5, trap the bishop in, and black's in some trouble. So that's why he invests the tempo to go back to e7 to to get his bishop out of dodge. And now I just go rook b1. So now if you do nothing, like if you just go h6, do nothing in this position, I'm going to go b4 and b5, try to dislodge the knight away from this position. Although I have to think about b5 because if I play b5, then I have no discovered check on the king. So I do have to be wary of that. But yeah, b4 is definitely an idea. And if he tries to go bishop d7, and castle queenside, then this rook on b1 pushing to b4 and b5 is also very, very useful. So rook b1, a very flexible move, very non-committal. I don't really want to keep going with g5 and h4 when he hasn't even castled yet. So I want him to castle first, and then start pushing my kingside pawns. But here he plays a5, which is definitely tries to stop my b4 move. So makes sense. And I do another waiting move. So I'm doing very non-committal moves because he hasn't made any committal moves with how he's setting up. So king h1 is very useful to get off of this diagonal. His queen is extraing my king. So maybe I'll go f4 and f5. Maybe I'll go rook g1 in the future. So keeping things flexible for myself because really I don't know where my bishop really belongs. I could have played bishop e3, sure I could have played it, but maybe I don't, want to commit my bishop here yet. Maybe my knight can go there in the future. I don't know. Definitely bishop e3 is not a bad move. Maybe that's what I should play to just get closer to connecting my rooks. But I decided to just go king h1. I thought that was a very useful move. In some cases where you give the d4 pawn, the king is subject to checks on f3, but now with f3 and e2, but now the king is never subjected to any checks as well. And this diagonal is pretty safe because this bishop is a long time from getting to e4. He castles, which I listed as an inaccuracy. So these are not what the engine thinks. This is what Nathan thinks. And here, I don't think he needed to castle. I really don't need to think he needed to castle. I think he could maybe go bishop d7 and just chill in the center for a little bit longer and figure out what I'm gonna do. Like every pawn push I make is very, very committal here. Like even if I go g5, like you could honestly consider maybe h6 here to open up the G file to try to attack me, and then maybe castle queenside soon. So I don't think he really needed to castle at all. And now since he did castle, now I have an easy target. I play G5 here, so I'm disincentivizing F6. And I'm also opening the door for my queen to hop in and attack the pawn on H7 here. And he does something very interesting after G5. He goes knight b4. And instigating a trade here and taking with the a pawn. So now this a pawn is simply hanging. This a pawn is hanging, and it's not really any good way to defend it. If I could play a4, maybe kind of inducing en passant, and now my bishop guards my rook, and now I'm attacking his queen. But I don't really want to open up the queen side. I'm not going to be winning this game on the queen side. I want to be winning this game on the king side. I want to play where my strength is. And the area of the board where I have the most pieces is the king side. That's where I have the most potential in this position. So I want to be playing on the king side. So ideally, I don't want to, I want to completely ignore him on the queen side if possible. And I do exactly that here. I think for about 24 minutes on this move on rook g1. And I calculate very deep, and I think I calculate very accurately here. And the idea is simple. Rook g3, rook h3, rook takes h7. I do exactly that. One thing I was calculating was that if he did play rook takes, I was trying to figure out if bishop takes h7 works, and I think it almost works, but not quite. So king takes, queen h5 check, king g8, rook Actually, oh wait, I could play rook g4. I actually thought I had to go rook g3, but rook g4 guards the pawn on d4. And then if he ever plays g6 and I go queen h6, which doesn't help him at all. And then if he ever pushes this pawn, then I can go check here and mate. So I think this is winning. Yeah, I was actually calculating rook g3 here actually, and then if queen takes, now rook h3, and then if check, then king g1, and if check here, check f3, check here, and I didn't get this far, but it looks like it actually could be winning here, because a check and king f4. Yeah, this actually could be winning. I actually didn't think it was winning. Yeah, but here you actually just sacrifice one piece. And now black is still up 2 pawns, so maybe this isn't so good. So I was debating on it, and I think if he did take, I think I probably would continue with rook g3, and then I think the sacrifice is worth noting, because now with bishop d7, now I can go bishop takes, king takes, queen check, king here, rook h3, and now I'm in time for the mate. So I think, so that's what I would have done. And if he ever plays like, like f6, I can always play g6 here to lock the king in the basement, more or less. So I think that it's all winning here. But he plays g6 now. So now I just go queen g4, because now this pawn on d4 is actually hanging, so I just defend it. And then he takes the pawn on a2, then I go rook g3, he goes bishop d7, and now I go rook h3 here. And here, there's not really much to do. If he goes bishop b5 and I go queen h4, well, now he has h5, and I can't take en passant because I lose my queen. So my attack is over. My attack is over. My attack is over. Except it's not, because he didn't play bishop b5. I'll show what happens if he does it later. He plays pawn to b3. And my attack is not over. I go rook takes h7 here. He takes back, and then I go queen h5 check, utilizing the pin, and now it's simply game over. If you go king g7, I'm gonna go check first, and then sacrifice my bishop. He just goes king g8 immediately, so no difference. So I just take. I take, so now I've sacrificed 2 pieces, both my rook and my bishop, and now he goes king h8. I give it another check, go my pawn to g6. Now it's going to be checkmate no matter what you do. If you move your rook out of the way, then check here and mate. So he has to go rook f7, and then I take, king takes, and very key move, queen h5 check. This is the only check. This is the most straightforward check to win the game, because now I'm preventing the king from escaping to e8. So he has to go king g7 or king g8, and now I go bishop h6 check. So he goes king h7, and I go bishop f8 check. Eyeing the bishop on e7, but more importantly, opening the door for my rook to come in. So now I brought in the last attacking piece. I only have 3 pieces left, and I'm giving up one of them. So if he takes my bishop, then it's I go queen h8 check, forcing the king up, and I go queen g8 checkmate here. The pawn and the bishop blocking the king's escape away. So very cool checkmate pattern. So he blocks, but still it's going to be a ladder checkmate. My e5 pawn stopping his king from moving forward. So definitely, it's very, very cool. In the earlier position, if he goes bishop b5, I can still sack my rook, and if he takes my bishop, then I can go queen h4, and now it's unstoppable checkmate. He has this check. I can ignore it, and it's game over. There's no way to prevent the checks, prevent destruction. So if he goes f6 in this position, or f5, let's say f6 to start. If I go check here, his king's getting out. His king is getting out. So if he plays f6 here, I can just go queen h6 in this position. So I in g7. So now is unstoppable mate. So if he goes rook f7, then rook H8 is checkmate, and because the rook blocks out the king's own escape, and so there's nothing he can do. So it's still checkmate. I sacrifice the bishop on d3. So that's the difference if he does play bishop b5. But overall, that was the game. That was the game. So very cool. It's a very aggressive opening here where I'm always giving away the d4 pawn, but black can never take it. And then I castle after playing g4, and we're both playing on both sides of the board here. He's playing on the queen side, but then castles king side in a way that I think my plan is way too easy here. I just go do that very simple rook lift, and it was a very nice miniature, more or less. So very happy with this result. I end this round with after this round I have 2 out of 3. So I beat a 1500, lost to a 2400, beat a 1600. So not doing too bad for I'm beating everyone who I'm supposed to beat and losing to the people I'm supposed to lose to. So kind of pretty standard for me. So with that being said, I'm going to hit the game review, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.